Hello everyone and welcome to this new video, where we will see together the myths and legends around the number 13. The number 13 has always been feared and is considered to be cursed in astrology. It would even represent the end of harmony because we find the 12 months of the year, the 12 signs of the zodiac, and many other signs related to harmony. And on the 12th, the 13th, so there would remain, apart from something unique, to see the devil. But for some associates on Friday the 13th, it would even be considered a bad omen. On February 13th, 1307, the Templars were arrested and executed. May 13th, 1915, a liner sank causing over 1,000 deaths. On November 13th, 1970, a cyclone in Bangladesh killed more than 300,000 people. April 13th, 1970, the Apollo 13 rocket's oxygen tanks exploded, launched precisely at 1:13 p.m. On October 13th, 1972, Flight 571 crashed in the Andes. May 13, 1981, an attack on Pope John Paul II took place. March 13, 2011 saw the Fukushima power plant explode in Japan. November 13, 2015 witnessed an attack in Paris. And there are many more tragedies. How can one not be troubled by this immense list? Others occurred on the 13th or Friday the 13th. It is one of the most widespread superstitions in the Western world. Even over 42% of French people believe it. Some claim to have experienced something horrible on Friday the 13th, and even say they'd stay home to avoid it. To avoid any problems that day. This superstition has become so widespread that there are still many businesses such as hotels, airplanes and hospitals that do not have room number 13. There are even buildings that go from floor number 12 to floor number 14. And in Formula 1, no competitor wears the number 13. Many writings mention this curse of the number 13 and have been for many centuries, but no one has determined whether it is actually related to something bad or whether it is a bad omen. In any case, even today, the 13th will remain for many French the sign of a tragedy or a date to avoid. But rest assured, for the most superstitious of you, in 2023 we are lucky enough to have only one Friday the 13th, Friday, October 13th, 2023. The legend of the Club of 27 is also known as Forever, 21-7, the Curse of 27. It is first in the rock clubs that we will see this legend appear, because they realized that many artists had died at the age of 27, after having experienced great success during their career. For them, it all started in 1969. Brian Jones, guitarist and founder of the Rolling Stones, died mysteriously in his swimming pool at the age of 27. A year later, Jimi Hendrix died in strange circumstances. A month later, Jimmy Joplin, diva with his overpowering voice, also died at the age of 27. Then Jim Morrison, the famous singer of The Doors, who followed this curse and also died at the age of 27. In 1994, Kurt Cobain committed suicide by shooting himself in the head at the age of 27. Finally, in 2011, Amy Winehouse joined the club under very strange circumstances. Also at the age of 27, most of these people had extraordinary careers and lived very rock and roll in the music world. The 27 Club is a curse that is taken very seriously, and many artists fear they will never be able to celebrate their 28th birthday. This curse is also known in other fields. We find references to the 27 Club in many games, including the 2016 Hitman with the famous mission, the 27 Club. The main objective is to assassinate the fictional leader of a rock band, who is also 27 years old. You should also know that in astrology, our life is divided by cycle, and astrologers all agree that age 27 is an important crossroads in a life. The passage from 27 to 28 represents the end of a cycle in astrology, and at 28, one should become aware of one's own end by dying at 27. These artists would therefore be condemned to remain in their childhood cycle, but experts say they are not the only ones affected. They would have been able to go back to 1938 and they would have found many artists who would have died in very strange circumstances also at the age of 27. Since the death of Amy Winehouse, new artists have continued to fuel this myth, and the Club of 27 is still not full. So the next time you hear about the death of an artist, don't forget to look if he didn't die at the age of 27 when he entered the Académie Française. The most illustrious writers reach the ultimate consecration, but for the holders of chair number 32, it would become more of a nightmare. The chair would indeed be connected to a curse. For many generations, the Académie Française has housed the Quai de la Cantine in the heart of Paris. Every Thursday, the academicians meet to ensure the proper use of the French language. He wrote the dictionaries, but for the last 100 years, it has also been the scene of very strange phenomena related to this curse. Among the 40 seats that would make up those of the Assembly of the French Academy, chair number 32 would be the subject of all concerns. It all started in 1912 with General Hippolyte Langelois, and he for only 7 months. In chair number 32, he dies in strange circumstances. Then, in 1972, it was Georges Izard's turn to be appointed to chair number 32. Only 2 years later, he will die. In 1974, the curse closes again on Robert Aron, who also reportedly died under strange circumstances. 2 years later, in 1976, Maurice Rams took his place on chair number 32 and seemed to escape the curse until 2003. Upon his death, the post remained vacant for several years, and Alain Ribier was elected to seat number 32. And there will be a very strange succession of things. He will refuse to prepare his speech and refuse to wear the green suit only a few days after being elected. He also died in strange circumstances. Academics will then ask themselves many questions, because in more than 200 years, it is no less than 8 occupants who died in strange circumstances, and all after sitting in chair number 32. Coincidence, or curse? Many people will begin to investigate this mystery in search of answers, and what they discover will investigate them even more. For over 100 years ago, a writer predicted this series of dramas. In 1911, Gaston Leroux, famous for his book Phantom of the Opera, also wrote one named The Haunted Chair, and this story would tell of a very strange chair linked to a famous curse that would take away all these holders and die in strange circumstances. But this would not be there, because thanks to the novel by Gaston Leroux, experts would have discovered how Maurice would have managed to escape this curse. In Gaston Leroux's novel, there are also successive deaths, and the only person who manages to get out of it is actually a person who is illiterate, and even if Maurice is not illiterate. The comparison is striking because unlike the others, he does not have his certificate of studies, and he stopped his studies in 3rd grade. He then continued his self-taught education, and like the hero of the novel, Maurice was not very educated, which would have allowed him to be spared this curse. The last person who was elected to photo number 32 was Alain Robilot in 2009. He wouldn't have died until 10 years later under normal circumstances. Is the curse over, or do we need to wait a few more years for it to resurface? We may never know. But the legend of Chair 32 will continue to mark the memory of the entire Académie Française. This is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you did and suggest topics for the next video. If you're interested, check out my other videos. Like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.